Hey, board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with another episode of Gumbo Live. It's episode number 115. We've got Patrick Leader of Leader Games coming on tonight. Gumbo Live, the number one Facebook Live talk show dedicated to board gaming. Board Game Gumbo, a proud member of Punchboard Media. Hey, check out some of our other fine members like What's Eric Playing? He is a weekly review series for various board games, tabletop games, and board game apps with a reputation, and it's well-deserved, for amazing, fantastic photography. And he's been doing this since 2015. I think he's up into the 600s now. So tons and tons of reviews. Punchboard Media, where we all bring something to the table. Hey, hit us up on social media, on Twitter or on Facebook or on YouTube at Board Game Gumbo, and we'll be looking for your questions in the chat crew. But enough blather, get right to our special guest here, Patrick Leader from Leader Games. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thank you. I was just working on reposting this on Twitter. So.
Sorry. Yeah, welcome to the show. We haven't had you on before, but the Gumbo crew are huge fans of Leader Games, and we're going to be talking about some of those cool games tonight. But just in case, there may be one or two people down under who haven't yet heard of Leader Games. So give us the elevator pitch. What is Leader Games, and who is Patrick Leader?
Oh, sure. So I am, I guess, a former programmer from the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and I've been designing board games since about 2000, 2001, and never got good or serious enough about it until 2015, and started working on designing games. I had one published through Minion Games in 2011 and got the bug for it, and studied a lot, learned a lot, and got into board game publishing right around that time. And as luck would have it, I quit my job in 2015, and and it took off from there. It was good timing for me.
What do they say? Sometimes invention is the mother of necessity.
Yeah.
I always like to reverse that one.
Yeah, I do too. And so just like took my unemployment, took my severance. I guess it was severance, was unemployment, and worked until I ran out of money. Went and did a couple of contracts, got back to designing, and took off from there. And been designing since then. And designing and working on building the company. And I really mostly building the company these days. But and so we kind of our jam when we started was making asymmetric games. We got started with Trove, No Vast back then. I was designing another asymmetric game with the guy who created Vast, David Somerville, back then, and I hope to resurrect that real soon. And then we got into Root, which obviously really took off for us. So kind of our approach is to hit that kind of, I don't know what Root's weight is, probably like a 2.83, somewhere around there.
Right around there.
And so that's what we're focused on. It's interesting because I think a lot of people early, like back then, were telling me to make more accessible games, but I figured, do what you want to do, like do what you like, and hit the audience that you want really hard, and so that's what we did. Vast and Root, I think we're both tried really hard to build also a lot of value in the box too, which was kind of our have a lot of ways to play, have a lot of be able to tweak the difficulty in Vast and things like that. So I hope we hit it.
We've got a bunch of people checking in tonight. Thomas, of course, usually the first one to check in, and he says, "Hey, what's up, Thomas?" And Patrick Newman checking in says, "Howdy." We've got a couple of designers that like to stop by every once in a while. Chris Strain from Asking for Troubles. Hey, Chris, congratulations on the expansions coming in for Asking for Troubles. We can't wait to see those. But that reminds me that some of the designers that we have on the show aren't published yet. And Patrick, I heard a podcast with you that said you have 10 or 20 years of game designs that you've been working on and percolating and working. What is it about game design where you just keep letting those things percolate? And what's that advice you could give to the game designer that hasn't got their first published design out there yet? What do they do to just keep working at it?
So I see that as a problem, but okay.
I see it as a solution. It's not a problem.
I keep going back and working on stuff. And so I think it is what I tell people is to recognize that your first game isn't going to be stellar. It might be. I mean, there are definitely exceptions out there if people have just knocked it out of the park the first design. But if you look at the catalog of someone from the way back, I'm thinking of Friedman Freeze, where if you look at people are like, wow, he really did a good job with Power Grid, and like it came out of nowhere, and I'm like, well, if you look at his catalog before Power Grid, there was a lot of attempts to get something off the ground.
He's that 10-year one-hit wonder, right?
Yeah, and he really built
overnight wonder. I mean.
Yeah, he's not overnight, and he's built on Power Grid. But I mean, if you look at his catalog before then, and so that's the way I look at my catalog. Five Fingered Severance has a 5.5 on BDG. I think maybe even a 4.9. It's pretty low. And my game before Vast, Trick or Treat, has a it might be around a 7. And I designed plenty of games before then. And so what I tell people is use your early games as a way to learn, to be willing to change, and to play test and learn the habit of playtesting, how to playtest effectively and how to develop effectively. I also saw the departure for me that made me successful from conventional wisdom is that I'm doing this with my hands and I'm out of camera. Is that
you are right on camera?
Is that no, I'm okay. I feel even worse if I did this. It's gonna be. You're gonna learn a lot as you design, and then you're gonna hit a point where continuing to refine a game that may not be viable commercially it's like there's something to be said for finishing a project, but there's also something to be said for if you start a new project, you will learn faster on the new project than you did on the old project. So it's time to restart. It's time to start over and make something new. And then when I talk about that big catalog I can go back to, a lot of those were things like I said, this is good, but I'm going to set it aside and learn more now. And now maybe I can come back and finish some of those, but I think some of those will just stay in the past.
Yeah, I've heard Jay Cormier say, fail faster, definitely.
Yeah,
just keep pushing. It's a live show. We got a couple of people saying hi. Dean Dunning from Meepletown says, and I know you never get tired of this, right? I'm rooting for
yeah.
Thank you, Dean. We got Don Lyles checking in. What's up, Don? You got any questions for Patrick? Hit us up. We're going to take any questions that we got there. And hey, a big thanks to Gates Dowd for setting this up for us tonight. I appreciate it. Wow. Gates does a great job of communicating. It's just instant right there, always getting back with me. So I appreciate that. One of our Louisiana people, Marshall, checking in. Hey, what's up, Marshall? And of course, designer Johnny Pack. Johnny Pack, I just got Sierra West in. Can't wait to play it. I'm not going to play the Apples one. I'm going to actually add a couple more modules based on your recommendation. So I don't know if you've played any of Johnny Pack's games, but Johnny Pack is a big designer, making a lot of Western-themed games, Hangtown, Sierra West, so many good games out there. So yeah, Chris says he likes that. Your first game isn't going to be stellar. Well, Chris, what if you designed stellar, though, like Matt Riddle did? So that's, you can design stellar if you want to. So yeah, could be that. So, all right, BJ from Wargame Gumbo, I've got my guest here, Patrick Leader, and we're talking some of the spicy hot games that we played recently. Let me see if I've got a picture of the one I wanted to show you real quick. Oh, where is it? Yeah, there it is. So you've played a game recently that I played and I absolutely love. I think it was your first play, and we're talking about Unmatched from Restoration Games. Patrick, have you got a chance to play it?
I did, yeah. I played against my spouse, and she played as Alice, and I was King Arthur, if I remember correctly. And
so you played the volume 1 then,
the original. Yep. And I think it was like one of those, like, after the quarantine started, I was like, well, let me get caught up on games that work for 2 players. So I went and bought a bunch of 2-player games to play with her, and we have a 9-month-old at home, so we've cracked up in one game. Like,
I have played more 2-player games the last 6 months than I've probably played the last 3 years. I mean, it's just more, it's easier to get a 2-player game either with my wife or with my boys. It's just easier to get that to the table since we're not going to the game store anymore for our game nights. But
yeah, Chris, Carol Tan warned me that if I buy one unmatched, I was going to get all the unmatched before too long, and they've been in my shopping cart a few times.
Oh, I'm all in. So these are pictures of the newest edition. This is Cobble and Fog. They've got 4 people in the set, just like in the set that you played with the 4 King Arthur, Medusa, Sinbad, and Alice. This is a similar set where it comes with 4 people. It's got the Invisible Man. It's got Dracula. It's got Dr. Heckle and Dr. Heckle and Mr. Jive. No, that's the
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, that was the song from the 80s. Sorry. And of course Sherlock Holmes and Watson. And what I love about this, Chris Leader designed this, and he takes the game that you played, but he's added little twisty mechanics for all 4 of the characters. And I've played all 4. I've either played for or against all 4 of the characters, and I absolutely love them. I might like the Invisible Man a little bit more than the others because it's got this fog mechanic, sort of like Bigfoot, if you've heard of the Bigfoot extension that it has for this.
Yeah.
In this game, of course, each person's got a deck. One of the reasons I like this game a little bit more than Shadespire, the Warhammer game, is that you don't have to deck build. Right out of the box, you got a deck. You're either moving your pieces around and getting cards, or you're doing some attacks or doing a special action. So the gameplay teaches itself practically, right? I mean, the first couple of turns, each player is going to figure out how the game is played. The game is not going to last forever either, unlike some other games, because there's a finite number of turns. Once you start running out of cards in your deck, your characters are going to start taking big damage, and the game's going to end. I haven't got to that point yet. We've pretty much cornered the one or the other characters and taken them out. But what I like about it is the fact that you can mix and match all these different characters, and the new set. Not only does it have amazing art with it, it really gives you, look at this. I mean, it really gives you the theme of that Victorian England. All the sculpts are really cool looking. The Invisible Man, he's actually there but not there. It's just clothes that are standing up with an empty face. So each one of them just really do well.
I might be looking at pictures on BGG right now.
Oh yeah, you taking a look at them? Yeah. It does come with 2 new boards.
Yes.
And this is the first time that I've seen that they make a tweak to the boards. One of the boards is just a normal board that you've seen before. The other board has this kind of escape mechanic where you're in you're in Sherlock Holmes's house, and behind little secret areas inside his rooms, they'll connect to each other. So you can zip around the board a little bit quicker and not totally get cornered. But like I said, this artwork this really just sings to me. I just love the Sherlock Holmes artwork. It almost tells a story with the Sherlock Holmes ones. Right. And again, like I said, beautiful sculpts. There's the 3 sisters that play with, and there's his buddy Watson right there. So, that's too early there. We're not ready to talk about that. That is Cobble and Fog, the new expansion for Unmatched. What do you like? What did you like about your first play?
Well, I liked how close it was. When I first looked at it, I was surprised. I was surprised that it ended up so close. I think I had 3 life left when I took my wife's character down. So I like that. I like the flow. The ticking of the clock. The cards are flowing through your hand. You're gonna you can even if you're not gonna deck yourself, at least you know that as you play things, they're not coming back to you. Generally, maybe there's a character that recycles cards, but it seems like once a card's out of your deck, it's out of your deck forever. And I like that. I like that gradual winding down or do you play aggressive early, or do you kind of wait for the big finish or whatever? So that's why I like that pacing. So.
I think there are different ways to look at it. And there is a character that allows you to bring some of is it the cards back, or it allows you to bring back the characters? Medusa allows you to bring back some of those characters. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember. Maybe the chat crew knows.
Is that the Raptors in Jurassic Park?
Yeah, I haven't played. I haven't. That's the one set I haven't played yet is Jurassic Park, and I'm waiting on the Buffy one. But I played everything else. And yes, there's Mick checking in. And yes, Mick, I've got the Our Family Plays Games T-shirt on. Thank you for putting those out there. That is fantastic. Yeah, a lot of people love this game. Look at that. Dave says, I love Unmatched. Chris, I still like Funkoverse, and the reason being, I think the 3 games are different. I think Shadespire and Funkoverse and Unmatched all hit a different thing that what I'm trying to do. With Funkoverse, it's all about those crazy special powers and that really cool timing, that cool cooldown mechanic. thinking about all the fun things you can do with the characters, and they come with games. You're not just playing a 2-on-2 battle or a 3-on-3 battle like you do in Unmatched. You're doing games like King of the Hill or Keep Away or Capture the Flag. So I think all three games have a special place, but I have been playing a lot more of Unmatched than I have been of anything else. And that is Unmatched from Restoration Games, one of the hot games that we've been playing. BJ from Board Game Gumbo, I've got my guest here, Patrick Leader from Leader Games. We're talking some of the spicy hot games we got. My buddy Steve O'Rourke's here, and he's played something recently. Steve, have you?
On tour.
Might help if I turn the mic on, Steve. What you said?
Try it again. Hey, everybody. I started showing you this. It's on tour. I just got a copy of this from someone who was parting with a bit of their collection and was happy to take a little bit off of their hands. Have either of you guys played this?
I played the app, I think, and that's about it. What about you, Patrick?
I wouldn't call it.
I've not played it.
I wouldn't call it spicy hot because it's been around for a while, but it's a roll and write. And you can see you've got a board of the United States here and two big, chunky 10-sided dice. And what you're essentially doing is trying to roll and run a path through the Americas here and lay out a long route for your band that'll go on tour. Essentially, what you do, you'll seed out 4 different of these circled areas, and then with the rolling of the dice, if you rolled a 7 and a 3, you'll end up having to play a 73 and a 37. And the cards that will come out will give you some options for places which you can put them on the board. You can see that might be a little bit shine there, but it's divided into central, east, and west, and then also you have north and south. So you've got some choices of what you can do with this, essentially. But when you lay out your path by the end of things, you have to go from lowest numbers to highest numbers and try to make the longest path possible. Go through a city and you get a point. Go through a city that happens to be one of the ones that you landed on perfectly. You can see here that happens to be the state of Arkansas, I guess. If you land on that one and fill it in, you get to circle it, and that's worth 2 points instead of 1. You don't have to make the path until the end, and you do it all with little right on and wipe off markers.
Sure.
When you lay all of this out by the end, essentially, you're going to run through and fill up essentially the entire United States as best as you can. But it's whoever can leave themselves the spaces between with enough room to slot in the right numbers to make a continuous path from lowest to highest.
Ooh, tricky.
You never get to dial back. I've only played it a couple times. It is dirt simple to play. It is dead hard to play well because you don't know how much room to leave yourself.
And it never cycles back. Like the one on Gone Sean Clever, the bottom one, the green or the blue one, where it cycles back every time you hit that 6.
Once you write the number, you've written the number. Now, you don't have to connect all the locations until the very end. So you can lay it out as best as you can. Say, I got screwed there, so maybe I have to take this path in a different direction. But once the numbers are filled and you try to connect it from lowest to highest, you've got very little wiggle room for that.
How many dice are you rolling?
You're basically rolling 2 dice each turn, and you'll put out 3 cards, and on each turn with those 3 cards out, you have to play 2 numbers. If I rolled, like I said, a 2 and a 3, you'll have to have a 23 and a 32. You have to do it one way and flip it and write both numbers down on your board. One thing I would recommend, you'll see that these are already getting pretty dark with wiping them off. Do yourself a favor. If you do get it, just use a tissue. It's pretty good quality. The board cleans up nicely, but you do want to make sure that it's going to last that way.
Look, you got Lafayette right there, Steve. There's my hometown right there, man. Right
there you go. Right in the middle, dead center of the circle. That's where you can either
due south from Minnesota, due south from Patrick.
Yeah, due south. It's a good little game. I wouldn't say it's heavy because there's very little that you need to think of in terms of rules, but there's a lot that you need to think of in making your path work. The only way that you can get a little mulligan is if you roll doubles, you can put a star in, and that counts as anything. You can go from a tie with that, but the mulligans are limited in this.
Patrick,
I have not played it very well.
Sorry, Patrick, are you a roll and write fan?
I've played Welcome to, and I liked Welcome to a lot.
Welcome to is fun.
Yeah, so much so I backed the second Kickstarter they ran for it, and I haven't gotten back to my set yet. I know On Tour has been played a bit inside the office. I just haven't had a chance to. It's usually over lunch, and I'm tired or want to keep working.
Is that a good lunchtime?
Welcome 2, you can use as many people, have as many people play as you've got boards for.
Okay.
So there are expansions where you can get the same board and have lots of people play with the same dice each time.
Good lunchtime game, Steve?
I would say so, but it may take a little bit more time than you'd think. So eat your lunch quickly. You're going to be thinking for a good solid half hour. Better have a lunch hour rather than a lunch half hour.
Patrick's trying to work. We got to get the game in so we can get back to work. And that's on tour, and that's from boardgametables.com, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
On tour. Patrick, it's time for them to change their name. Boardgametables.com just doesn't sound like a board game company, right? It sounds like a company that makes board game tables. Just me. Might be just me. Patrick, we got a question for you. Adrian says, hello, got a question for Patrick. I loved your live Twitter feedback on playtesting of Void Lich last night.
Good.
Put a pin in that, Adrian. We might be talking about that in a little while.
We'll talk about it in a bit.
Which game that you're currently designing will be the next Leader Games project? Hey, Steve, I'm going to throw out the hook. Let's see.
So of course, we're wrapping up both in the studio right now, and then it's a toss-up. It depends on how quickly I can get ready. Been a little bit slower than I was expecting during this quarantine. Partially its fault, partially I've been taking care of logistics, but I'll either be doing Void Lich next, or we'll be doing the next Root expansion next. And I believe right now the plan is to do the next Root expansion immediately, and we might even push for a 2020 Kickstarter if we at the end of the year, if we can get it done in time. It's looking like it might be next spring though before we get to it. So we'll do that. We're going to do a Root expansion. That's all in Cole's desk. I won't be involved as I was for Underworld with that one. I might pitch a map or two.
You're making the chat crew happy there. Yes.
Yeah.
More Root. We're going to talk about that, Samuel. Just stick around. We're going to actually get and
then I will get to Void Lich, and I have a game beyond that I've been working on also. So
how do you decide?
I've been working on 5 games during the quarantine, which is bad news. I should not have tackled that much design.
What else are you going to do?
It was a good way to distract myself. And every time I get blocked on a design, I didn't have the whole staff, because we've been working from home, to just work through a problem on. So, and they've been busy with Oath, so I've just been using jumping around from project to project to speed up that, to get through getting blocked basically. Mm-hmm. And some of them it's been quite wonderful. I've done some of my best work right now, but it's been a little frustrating too. So
Thomas, anyway, we're gonna ask, how do you decide whether a design fits as an expansion in one of your games, or you know what, this is a great mechanic and I'm just going to move it to a new title? How do you make that decision?
I don't know. I tend to borrow heavily from myself anyway, so so that's how it's going to work. I just you try it out if it's going to fit as an expansion, and if it doesn't work, then we'll just pop it over to a new game. It's funny you should mention that, because I think Cole has talked about with Oath design that there has been some things that have been torn out of Oath, and frankly there were some things that were torn out of Underworld just during the editing process to make the game better. We're not trying to take something away from you, and all of those we wrote down and said these could be later projects. And that's been valuable. And so Cole keeps notes like that. I try to. I'm not as organized as Cole though. But for instance, in the Underworld, the Corvids originally had cards that they put in your hand. The Root faction, the Crows, they would put cards in your hand, and that was how they played their plots, and that created some issues in kind of degenerate positions and things like that. So that has been taken out, and we moved to a later game. It won't be in Root. Okay. It just didn't work in Root. So
Dave's got a question for you. The good Dr. Kaniti is famous for just designing the mechanics, and then someone else comes in and puts a theme on it. But most people either design around a theme, or they add the theme to a mechanic that they think really works. Mm-hmm. Do you have a favored way of doing that, or are you just organic? Whatever's coming out.
Yeah, that's a good. Cole and I have done a lot of analysis of this part of the process for us. I think one thing that we realized is a lot of what worked well for Root was the three of us working together, and that's Cole and Kyle, the illustrator, and myself. And because Kyle's not necessarily contributing to the design, but he's contributing so much to the lore and the look that will sometimes change how we think about the game itself. And so there's a magic to Root, even though like I was just acting as the producer of Root, that we want to recapture. And like the three of us have to work in that way again. And so we've been doing a lot of talking about how we got to that point. And so what Cole revealed is that he will start with a very narrative focus for his designs. Like if you look at Infamous Traffic or John Company, he started with, let's build a game about John Company and then work from there. Or let's build a game about forest animals fighting and we'll move from there. And then he started building that system from the top and going down into the mechanics until it reached the mechanics. And that's one of the joys of, I think, asymmetric design is that we were able to take each faction's story and build a game around it, and then let them interact. And with the perspective that Vast gave us, he was able to design it in a way that made it a lot easier to teach than Vast because you have a lot of common mechanics between all the factions. So he works with that approach. He says I've kind of frustrated him at times because sometimes I can jump in with a very mechanical approach and be like, I had a dream where I was swapping cards and they were doing this and this is what we're going to do. And so what I find I tend to do is I tend to have a lot of narratives in my head. And some, like, for instance, there are some parts of Void Lich that have existed since 2006. And then I take the mechanics and I start building them towards each other until I can get to the middle. And if I'm going to get stuck on a design, it's right here. Like this is where it's going to fall apart for me because I can't get things to meet or whatever. And that's why it's great to have a good developer now. Like Nick or Cole can come in and be like, just do it this way. You're fine. And then we finish the game.
I can kind of see that. You know, when I the faction that I played the most with Root is the Eerie. I just love the look of the Eerie, and I love their story. And I find when I play the best that I'm actually following the Eerie story. It's a bunch of generals that are all yelling at each other going, we're going to restore this glory. And so I build one up and then I switch to the other. And if I try to just play one throughout the whole game, I'm so focused on doing that I'm forgetting about what I'm supposed to be doing for the board. So in my mind, that's what was going on when the Eerie was decided. It was like, okay, what are these birds used to be the lords? What are they doing now? Are they arguing amongst themselves? How can we build that out as a design?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll say the Eerie of all the factions in Root frustrate me because as an ex-programmer, I'm like, oh, I'm programming again. I don't want to.
And I'm not a programmer, so this is. I'm always attracted to games like that, like Robo Rally or any of these other games where. And what I like about it, it's pretty simple programming. This one, but
a lot of depth with it. Yeah, and so I think Cole just started with what if the I mean, from my notes, he started with there's an invading faction. So then, somewhere along the line, he came up with this idea of the decree and adding things to the decree, adding promises to the decree, and it just kind of evolved from there. So I think in like their very earliest cut of the game, the factions would have kind of a sudden death victory condition, like in Vast. And so at the time, that's where the domination cards come from, that was the original Eerie's victory condition was ruling either the keep at that time or by controlling 3 of 1 people. So
BJ, we're going to go. Got my guest here, Patrick Leader from Leader Games. We're talking spicy hot games we played. The last one I want to talk about before we get to our Leader Games talk is Shadow Network from Talon Strike Studios. Have either one of you, Patrick or Steve, heard of Shadow Network?
Only since you posted.
Nope.
No, I don't know anything about it.
Oh, I love spy themes. I've watched tons of James Bond. Remington Steele was one of my favorite shows growing up. Oh yeah, I was a big Remington Steele fan in the 80s. So Shadow Network called to me right away, especially when I saw the graphic design. This is straight out of the 60s. It's a big European map. And each player board here, look, it's like the theme is just, and I'm taking screenshots from TTS. This is not even the real stuff. This is just screenshots of the work in progress that they're doing. But you're these big spy bosses, right? And across this European map, and you're sending out your spies and your handlers to gather information. Okay, cubes, right? But still, it's information to get to get influence. Okay, that's victory points. But still, the influence, where's it going to go when you collect it? It's obviously going to go in the coffee cup while you're drinking, because you're thinking about all the influence you have over the world events. And if you want to call a handler, you're not going to send a fax or an email. You're going to grab that rotary phone and you're going to call them and try to gather all the intel. And sometimes the intel makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes when you're talking to your handlers, they leak information. Yeah, they leave cubes on some of the cities that you're visiting, because that's what happens. To get information, you got to give information sometimes. So yes, this is the Euro game. If you like Euro games, but what the kind of Euro games that I like are the ones that have a theme that feels like it comes out in every thing that you're doing. And that's what I liked so far about, Bradley and I only played about half the game. We were just getting super tired and learning it. Jason did a fantastic job of teaching it, but this board just, made me excited when I saw it, with cubes all over the place. Just a beautiful map. I think, Steve, you had a comment about the map.
Yeah, I was thinking when we were showing this, and the thing that popped out at me was the art design made it look like Worldwide Watergate.
It does.
It was the same kind of vibe that you were putting out, but with the black and white pictures, the little flavor text on the cards, it looked like it was trying to be a spy worldwide version of that.
They could have done a map with just countries and things like that, right? Or even hand-drawn parts that, okay, there's the Eiffel Tower. No, instead, it's all these little tabbed pictures. So you can almost see this on the wall in the movie, right? Oh, we're looking at this. We got an agent in Gravansky. We got to get some information out of them. And that's what I liked about it. The black market at the top is all of those handlers that you're trying to get. And that's the ones that, let's call it what it is. It's just resource conversion. You're turning greens into 2 pinks or a pink into 3 blues, but it doesn't feel like that when you're playing. It really feels like you're walking around this board, really trying to get information and convert those into victory points. We're going to talk about that one in a second, but that is, and that is Shadow Network from Talon Strike Studios. Patrick, is that a theme that appeals to you? That 60s?
I like it a lot. I was actually looking at Pandemic Season 0 too, right? Is going to be that Cold War era spy thing. We didn't finish Season 1, so I feel like I don't deserve to play Season 0.
Yeah, Watergate was my number 2 game last year. I absolutely love the 60s and 70s themes. There's that Cold War era. I know it doesn't appeal to everybody, not even everybody in my game group. A lot of them are like, this is not a theme that I'm interested in. But this spy from Shadow Network really interested me. This is from Talon Strike Studios. It's supposed to be going on Kickstarter pretty soon. I don't know the designer. I think it's his first design, Rafael Rosario. I don't know him, but I'm interested in it. I love what I'm seeing. And that
how long would it take to play? And what would you say in terms of weight?
So I would say, let's say we got through about 2 rounds in maybe 35 minutes, 45 minutes. So I'm guessing it's one of those 90-minute Euros, your typical coin. Yeah. The weight felt very similar to Coimber, or maybe even a little bit less than that. So it's a solid medium weight Euro, what Sean would call the old medium weight Euro from the Dukes of the Dice. So that's what it is. Shadow Network from Talon Strike Studios.
Great question from Thomas there.
Oh, I didn't see it. What you got?
Question for Patrick. Has playing those several 2-player games during lockdown caused you to rethink how your titles play with 2 players?
Domus brings the good questions every week.
He does. Thoughtful.
Yeah, I also played Cosmic Encounter Duel during the lockdown. I enjoyed it. It's a little random, but my wife was like, maybe I'll try one more time. And then I think I'm good. I really like Cosmic Encounter. I've probably played in high school. It was like our first board game, like that we really owned.
I've heard a number like 500. Have you really played it that many times?
It was probably 500 games. It was every time we got together after high school to play it. If I wasn't working that day, it was 2 games of Cosmic Encounter for my junior and senior year of high school.
I wish I'd known about the game in high school. We played chess all the time. In my place, but I would have played Cosmic Encounter every day, and I know my friends would have loved this game because I adore it now.
So anyway, getting back to the question, I have changed. It's changed a lot about how I think about 2-player. It's also changed a lot about. Vast had some pretty good solo modes, thanks to the developer Kyle Wolfel, who worked on it. And like I feel like that was kind of an aside from the game. It's weird to make a solo mode for a game that it lives in the interaction, the asymmetry. So you have to have multiple players to live in that space. And so I was like, when people asked for solo, I was like, all right. But I've been thinking about a lot about solo for Void Lich as I plow forward on it, and how it will speed up testing during the lockdown. And if it's going to speed up testing, then I may as well release that. But no, I haven't really thought too much more about 2-player, except to I was looking at Titan. Does anybody remember Titan from the 80s? The Avalon Hill
I saw
game?
your pictures. I didn't know that one.
Oh, really? Okay, so it's a game that could have only existed in the 80s. Like, if you made it now, it wouldn't exist anymore because someone
high school
from high school. Hi, Josh.
Did he play Cosmic Encounter with you?
No. And so like Titan has this like strange overland movement, and then when your armies get close to each other, they fight each other on a tactical map. And so BJ and I would be fighting a battle, and Steve would just be sitting there going, great, this is a lot of fun. And there was the system for negotiating away the battles, but a lot of people would be like, no, I'm just going to fight because I don't know how, like, I'm going to lose negotiation. So they would just fight, and then you'd end up with this really long game because everyone's fighting every battle. And so I thought about, like, if you were to make something like that again now, you would have to make it 2-player, so that if you do have a tactical battle, the uptime is still, your downtime is increasing because you have to participate in the battle whenever there is a battle. But no, I haven't really thought too much more about 2-player. I think 2-player to me is a different skill set, and I have not really engaged with it much. I think competitive 3+ player games have a huge advantage in how quickly you can balance on them, and in that the game can do some of the balance, like the players can do some of the balancing for you. And with 2-player, you have to be really on the nose with your balance. And I think that's a very particular skill set, and there's a very disciplined approach to game design. I just don't enjoy as much as the big bashes. So I actually, it's funny because going back to that, if you think about Root, Cole swears by 3-player, and I swear by 5-player. And there's very different experiences when you play Root with 3 versus 5. I like 5 because the strength of the narrative comes out to me more. That there's these factions, and there's a little bit of politics. Even if the players aren't talking, you can map that out over what's going on in the game. And I like that approach to it. And he likes 3-player because obviously the downtime is lower, and there's a little bit more focus on the action that you're taking. So and there's less randomness. I will I'll agree in 5-player there's an element of like, well, I didn't, like, this happened to me because it was out of my control. So so that happened. I have for a fan project, I designed a larger map for 5-player, and I've been playing that on the weekends.
Ooh.
Yeah.
BJ from More Game Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Patrick Leader from Leader Games, and we're going to get to a game that I was so excited to play. I purchased the game. I don't have it yet. I got on Tabletop Simulator, Patrick, because I wanted to play it so bad. And we're going to talk about some of those reasons, and that is Fort. It is a changeover from SPQF from Grant Leaders. Grant Rodiek. Grant Leader. Y'all are not related, as far as I know.
No, and Chris Leader and I aren't related either, just for the record.
Yeah, you and Chris are not related either, right?
Yeah, no.
That's funny. So it would be nice if you worked together, though. I'd love to see a Chris Leader game from Leader Games that's not Chris Leader's company, right?
I get his email occasionally. I think it's funny. Like, someone will write to they'll even write patrick@leadergames.com. Oops, I just added my email address. And then he will I've literally got an email that's addressed to Chris at that account, and I'm like, you have to type in Patrick to get this far. What is happening to you? They must have typed in Leader, and it's filled in, auto-filled or something like that. Let's say that hi to Dave Doust, who CO CMON there. We'll out him too.
What's up? Love the CMON games. Come on, as they're calling. Thank you, Dave, for checking in. And he says he loves Titan. So obviously it's a game I just missed in the. We were playing too much Dark Tower. That's probably what happened.
There was a reprint from Valley in 2012, and no diss on the effort that they put into the game. But they made the art kind of this dark modern fantasy, like cell shaded 3D digital painting. And the original art was done with silhouettes, and every piece has unique art. Like literally, there's 20 Cyclopses in the game, and they all have a different silhouette.
Wow.
And some guy just drew tiny little Cyclopses over and over, and
You've got me intrigued.
It's very charming that way. So anyway, what was the question? Where are we at? Oh, so we're gonna talk about Fort.
Here's what I want to know. So we know that Fort was originally SPQF from Grant Rodiek. What I want to know is, how did it get on your radar? How did you first find out about it?
Yeah, and I lobbied against it. I'll tell you right now.
I love it. I love it.
That's the best part. Sorry, I didn't really lobby against it. It took some convincing though. So basically, Cole had a copy of SPQF, and he'd bring it by and play it with Nick, one of our now developer, then a graphic designer. He'd play with Nick. It was part of his attempt to get Nick had only played he just got out of college. He's played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh and some other CCGs.
Yeah.
And so which is awesome to have him on the staff because he knows CCGs live and die in graphic design. That is very important to them, how they communicate information. Each card has to have a lot of information on it that communicates very quickly. So as a graphic designer, as a new graphic designer, it was an easy teach for us. We were communicate these things on this card very quickly. So he kind of studied him on other games. And so SPQF, since it was relatively quick, was a game they'd play over lunch. Nick got a copy somehow. He went on eBay or something like that, won a copy. There's only 1,500 copies of SPQF, I believe. There's not many. I'm always amazed when I run into somebody who owns it. Grant and his girlfriend at the time hand assembled the sets in their house. I mean, they were all produced somewhere, but they had to put all the stuff in the box together. And that was literally the upper limit of that campaign. He was like, I don't want to sell any more of these because everyone we sell past this point, we have to hand assemble. Of course, if he'd have sold 5,000, he could have got a factory to do it for him. So so they would play it, and then I was looking at it, and I was like, wow, this art is, it's anthropomorphic animals. And at some point that crossed into Cole coming to me and saying, what, could there be, Cole or Nick, could there be a way to make this game with our art and to make a root version of SPQF and get it back out there, because there's been this limit on how many can be played. There's only 1,500 sets in the world. So if we're able to make it again, we could get it out to a much wider audience. And I tell you, I played the game and I was lost. The iconography, and
really,
he admitted to it that he felt the iconography was pretty weak. And I felt like an old man. I got to the end of the game and I was just like, what is going on?
I've been there. No, Patrick, I've been there. And that's one of the things that I loved about Fort. Steve, this iconography, it's one of those things where you can scan your hand and scan all the, it's not the market, it's the yard, I think it's called. You can scan the hand and the yard. They've got an awesome cheat sheet, which I did have to refer to, Patrick, every once in a while you got to look at that cheat sheet.
Yeah.
But you can scan, it's so well done, so crisp, that you can scan all the cards in seconds. And that's one of the troubles that I have. Look, I'm an older gamer, and one of the things that I have is taking in all this information at one time really quick and processing it. That's just not me. My philosophy in playing card games like this is usually just take the first best opportunity, not the best one, the first best one, the first one that looks good to me, even though the next two are probably better. I'm just going to take it because I don't feel like scanning through these cards. But whoever did the graphic design in this thing, it's not like that at all.
That's Nick.
Yeah. I mean, the card on the right, know that you're going to increase your fort. The card on the left, you're getting resources. The card on the bottom, you're trashing a card. I mean, it's just so well done, Patrick.
Thank you. And so they brought to me, they said, well, if that's what you don't like, give us 2 weeks. We're going to redesign the icons. We're going to redesign we'll put some root art on it. We'll bring it back to you, and then you get to play it. And that, so I was like, well, we're between projects. We got 2 weeks we can risk right now. Let's do it. So they went off and worked on it. He came back with the new design, and I really liked it at that point. And so then we talked about, not really liked it. It was still, I want to give Cole and Nick a lot of credit for selling me this game. So they came back
did the
with
cards have names at that point? Were they already starting
no,
to
it was
little
just
characters
and otters and
Okay.
that. So we sat down with it. We had a meeting, and we talked about like what it meant to make a Root, like a lighter Root game while Root was still going on, and what it meant to sell it with a different theme, what it meant to go back to SPQF as a theme, and so on. And the upshot of that conversation was we decided it would live better in its own, in a new universe, which is ironic because we were first picked it because it had anthropomorphic animals.
Right.
And so we
no
looked
animals
around,
in this game, Steve.
and we looked around at Kyle's portfolio because he works for us directly. And we looked at games we had worked on in the past, and we had this game called Camp. That it was like a flicking game I had been working on in like 2018. And that was like, we're like, let's do kids. And then like we got away from the camp theme and made it about a park, and moved on to Fort. I think Kyle just pitched it whole cloth. He said, Kyle or Nick said, let's make it about building a fort. And
This has Kyle's fingerprints all over.
yeah,
I mean,
it's pretty amazing.
From start to finish. If you're familiar with Kyle's art in Root or any of the other games, Steve, or anything that he's got on the Leader website, this just looks like him. I mean, it's got all this amazing little kids art. Although I do have one little thing. This is picky, but one little thing: the perk cards and the made-up rule cards. They almost look like a different artist from the main set of cards. The Carlos, who does all the graphic design for us with the Gumbo, this is what he does for a living. And he noticed it right away. He's like, "Wow!" He said, "This is all the same artist." And I said, "As far as I know, it's all Kyle Farron, right?"
I think so. I think maybe Nick could have slipped some drawings in there because of time. But I think even pull one up. Let's take a look.
Yeah, so look at Ghost and then look at the made-up rule.
That's Kyle. He did a different style. That's all.
So here's what my thought was, and we were banning this about on Discord. And my thought was, so the cards themselves are all they represent the kids that are playing. The made-up rules and the perks, that's the kids themselves actually drawing them out. So Kyle dialed it down one more time to say, if the kids were drawing things, if they were drawing a little, a made-up rule, because that's what you do, Steve. You're playing a game and somebody says, no, that's not the rule. This is going to be the rule from now on. That's what this game is. That represents the in-game scoring points that you have. It's like, we made up this rule for this game, and it's only for this game, and you can score these points if you do that. And so the art looks a little bit different from the art in the other ones. And I'd be curious.
It's all Kyle, according to Gates. She's just set it down in the comments. So
I missed that. All Kyle art. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that the art on the main kid cards is a little bit different in style than the art on the perks and the made-up rules. So tell the chat crew, give us the elevator pitch. What is Fort and how do you play it?
Sure. So Fort is we moved on. I'm pretty sure that's not mine.
That was Rap God. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's a deck builder, and the players start out with a deck of 10 cards. The cards tend to have very different functions from each other, and you can play a random set of cards off the top of the deck. You do start with 2 characters based on which kid you are, or you can draft your cards from the deck, which is obviously superior way to play, but you don't want to start that way because you don't know what the cards are worth. And so you're building your deck and you're drafting cards from a common area, like more like Ascension than Dominion, where Dominion you're purchasing from a central area. The rub to me, and the interesting part about it to me, is the suits themselves meld into plays. And so, like, if you go back to
one more.
So some of the cards will have multipliers on them, and so if you can play multiple shovels together, you can get some sort of bonus from that. Or if you can play multiple, that card. Even Dash there. Yeah, so if you look at Dash, you can play multiple skateboards and get multiple pizzas, and then other players can follow your card if they also play a skateboard. So the top action is for all players. The bottom action is the action that only you can take as the player played the card. And you can play them in either order when you play. But the most interesting part about it for me is that if you do build that combo that's just going to annihilate everybody, you can't. because as you discard cards, the card you didn't use the action of, they all go out into a row in front of you, and they're available for the other players to draft off of you. And so when they pick up, you have to pick up a card every turn. You either pick up a card from the park, which is the center. You can top deck a card, or you can take a card from another player. And so in that way, if somebody has a bad combo or a good combo, bad from your perspective, you can start to break up that combo by taking cards away from them. And I think it makes it very enjoyable, because you have to learn to play tactically, and you have to learn to play the situation more so than I feel like in other deck builders. And I love Dominion, don't get me wrong, but in Dominion you can kind of just be like, well, I'm going to play these 3 cards at the beginning of the game, and then you just play those cards and hope you can outdraw your opponent, basically.
Right.
And that's much harder to do in Fort.
So one of the things that we enjoyed about Fort is that mechanic of what cards to leave out. And the other thing I liked about it, I don't know why this is, most of the time when you play deck builders, you're just kind of playing, the card. You don't think about the theme itself. You just think about the mechanics. This reminds me more of Clank, where we got to know, especially our game 2 nights ago, we got to know Ghost and Doc very, very well. Everybody knew when Ghost and Doc were coming on. You never described the card. You always said, I'm playing Ghost. I'm playing Dash. The cards become themselves little characters in this movie that you're building about building up the forts. And I was wondering, how did that come about, where the cards seem to take a life of their own? What do you think? What's making that happen?
That's all Kyle. He's just a really good visual storyteller. I always find a remarkable about Kyle is he never draws just a person. There is always something happening. There's emotion or an action inside of the card. If you go back to the football player on the previous card, like he's about to throw or he's getting ready to throw. Rusty there is trying to get you to play with his tractor.
Oh, flip a coin.
And she's got her dolls and she's mutilated them by switching their heads, and she controls them and she doesn't want you to play with them. And everything I look at of Kyle's just it just oozes story coming out of it, and that's what I love about working with him.
Why the Macaroni Sculpture? I'm curious about that. That's the one I didn't quite understand. So the end game, there's a little bit of a bonus if you can get your fort all the way to the top level. You'll grab what's called the Macaroni Sculpture, and you get a nice little bonus of 4 points. We haven't always gotten the fort, by the way. We've won the game in other ways. There's so many different ways to end the game. I would say it's only come out like once out of every 2 or 3 games. But what was the theory behind the Macaroni Sculpture?
You'll have to have Nick on and ask him. I don't know the Macaroni Sculpture. I just saw it and I was like, yes, of course.
Macaroni Sculpture.
And those who didn't watch, we were doing a live stream during the lockdown twice a week, and they built a fort on the day that we launched the fort pre-order in the office, and Patty, our other graphic designer, actually made Nick a fort Macaroni Sculpture and brought it to him. So it's sitting in his office. I haven't been back to the office since then, so I haven't got to see it. But
I don't know if I have the card, Steve, but I want to show you one more card just to see if I can.
I'm looking at the art on those, and I'm wondering if there's any particular inspiration that he drew, because it seems like there's a mix of what could be some kids' cartoon or a kids' graphic novel. Like if you had a hybrid of Diary of a Wimpy Kid mixed with Charlie and Lola.
And I can't remember that there's a series that they referenced a lot, Kyle and Nick, and was it Recess? Is the name of the show? Someone in chat.
This does look like Recess.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see that.
Help me out here.
Recess. My kids liked Recess. I would never watch that. You know that, Steve.
Yeah.
No, Recess was a good show.
I've not seen all
We
the
saw your eyes light up, PJ. You know exactly what it is.
If you have kids, you watch a lot of Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, all of those.
So, and also,
I can see that, Steve.
as a little bit of Easter egg, we are all the staff members are in the cards. So
really,
yeah.
I'm gonna have to try to figure out.
My spouse is also somewhere in there, and I think there's another spouse in there too.
I'm gonna have to check that out. So one of my favorite ones, Steve. So you know, one of the focuses, especially if you're a first-time player, you look at the fort and you go, wow, if I build all 5 sections of the fort, I get a ton of points. Let me focus on that and learn the mechanics of the game. But there is one card that, and it's one of the hidden bonus, one of the scoring cards, and it's something like you have to limit your fort to 2 or 3, and you get a big bonus of cards. And I think it's called minimalization. And the card itself is funny because there's so many different ways that Kyle could go with it. But what he did in this case is the poor kid has this little tiny cardboard box, and he's kind of sitting in his cardboard box. And Steve, if that's not a story to you, everybody's building this big giant. You know, mom and dad just got a new refrigerator, and they've got the big refrigerator box, and this guy's got the little tiny cereal box, and he's just sitting in it. But he's going to score some points because he built his fort. You know, so I love the fact that all these cards just tell a story in the game. But, you know, the game has to be more than just graphic design. And I think the fact that it's a tight game, everybody watching everybody else, paying attention to what they're doing, looking at in fact, the last game we played, Patrick, I think we went to the yard, maybe 2 or 3 times during the game. We were just flat out, you know, sniping cards from each other because you learn that I got to take these cards from this person or else that combo is going to keep rolling, or wow, there's that blue card I've been waiting for, you know?
Yeah. And I think an early game that I played with Kyle when we went to XOXO in Portland this year was it turned into us just letting each other just pollute our decks, and so we ended up with these just gigantic decks that were just completely unwieldy. And we decked the game, and it was a really low score. So a little happened too.
Lovely game. If chat crew, this is one I can definitely enthusiastically endorse. Hit me up if you want to check it out. I'll show the game to you, but you can still get it right on leadergames.com.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, it's I think it technically says pre-order, but it's shipping right now, so it's in order. We do.
Orla has posted a link up there, leadergames.com/products/board. So check it out.
And it's shipping in the US. We sold out in Europe, so we're working on getting more over. I don't know what Gates actually wanted me to officially say about that, but we're getting more over there to sell too. So
that's why she's in the chat, because she's watching to see what you say. Right. All right, so we got a little bit of time left. Let's run through a couple of these games, if you don't mind, Patrick.
Yep.
Because you know people came on the show and they want to hear about some of the other games, and one of those is look at this art, Steve. BJ from Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Patrick Leader from Leader Games, and I want to get a little scoop from him about Oath. What's the news on Oath? When can people get it? When is it going to be delivering? What's going on with it?
Yeah. So I can't really comment too much about the timeline yet. COVID has had a little bit of an impact on our working life.
Sure.
And not just working, it's and then I like people followed it around the world, but we probably lost a week. It's because of the protests, which I totally agree with.
Sure.
But it was a lot of it did happen here in the Twin Cities, and so the timeline's going to move a little bit. We don't know for sure, so we don't want to make any announcements or cause any trouble with it yet. But we'll be getting to the printer by the end of this month, and it'll be running through the printer. Everything is so weird right now because the factories are down, and like they're producing less, and so like sometimes you can get through much more quickly than we were expecting to get through. And so then we'll be shipping. Let me just open up the calendar.
And while you're doing that, Nick Shipley from 90 Second Nerd says Fort is going to be in the top 20, his top of 2020 list. So nice. Pretty high praise over there. See you, Nick.
Can you bring that artwork up full, BJ? I'd love to take dig into those colors in the palette there.
Yeah, and notice that, look, you see the same thing that you see in Root and in Fort, right? But again, just like Fort was a different take, this to me, this is not a carbon copy. This is a different take. You still see his fingerprints in it, right? But a different take on it.
Wow.
Yes.
Look, don't the characters have this? Like, they could be related to the people in Fort, right? From 500 years ago. But it was
funny because when Fort came out, we got this comment that was like, "It's too bad they used the Root art." to make for it, and I was like, what? Yeah, it's the same artist.
That's about it. I feel like it's a style, but it's, each one has a unique signature. You know
Again,
that
a lot of storytelling infused in each Oath card, and we're seeing 4 or 5 a day right now, and it's like staring at the sun. It's so awesome that there's just so much in every drawing that comes out from him. So really old version there.
The elevator pitch, yeah, very early. Give us the elevator pitch. What is Oath?
Yeah, so Oath is ostensibly a war game where the players are fighting over this world. One player is the Chancellor, and so you see the purple pieces in that picture there, and they win by kind of maintaining order, and they have the victory condition can kind of fork a couple ways, and it's changed on me a little bit, so bear with me. The Chancellor is fighting against these other people, the outcasts or the exiles, and the exiles can be working on the victory condition that the game has. There's 4 different victory conditions, or they can be hunting for a victory condition in the deck, which becomes like those are called prophecies, and you can take a prophecy and work on it. Gates totally stopped me if I'm using the wrong term. Well, they're the oaths. Yes, they're the oaths. Sorry, I didn't get too much sleep last night. A very bad synesthetic.
9-month-olds will do that.
Yeah, and yes. So you can be really smug in knowing someone's going to lose because they haven't advanced the victory, the game's victory condition much, and then suddenly they're going to be coming out with a new with the oath. There's enough oaths. There's so few that you can kind of look at the board state and kind of guess what other people are going for and try and head them off as you play more. And I find that very rewarding about the game. At some point, the Chancellor is going to enfranchise other players, and they can join the Chancellor by becoming a citizen of the Empire, and their victory condition will shift to compete with the Chancellor. So the Chancellor has to be careful about inviting a person that is strong enough to help them, but not strong enough to rival them in the course of the game. And so there's a lot of challenge there, and I really like that aspect of the game. I also just like I'm going to be an exile because I'm going to do my own thing at the edge of the world. There's a lot of adventure to it. I like as you discover the cards, you can put them into your little retinue, or you can put them onto the board, and then they provide different actions, or they change how the game state works. And I like that quite a bit. Eventually, someone's going to win. It's suggested, but not required, that player become the next game's Chancellor, and they pick the next game's victory condition at the end of the game. And it could be based on how they won. It could diverge, however you want to tell the story. But the other big part about it is that the game comes with a stock set of cards, and it comes with a stock set of cards. And as you, Gates has just given me a note. I got it. If a suit helps, there's 6 suits in the game of the cards, and if a suit wins, then you might bring in more cards of that type and lose other cards. You randomly lose 10 cards from the set, and that's the set of cards you play with next game. So out of 200 cards, you only see 40 of them every game, and there might be cards you'll never see if you don't play a lot, And more importantly, if you play 10 games and I play 10 games, we're going to have a very different set of cards. And those cards are going to change very much how we play the game and how we go about pursuing our goals. And it's really been fun to see that unfolding. So very cool.
Sounds fantastic.
I may have missed this. Did you say those win conditions, are they open? Are they hidden win conditions? Or is there one for the game? Or different players have different ones?
Oh, sorry, yes. Yeah, so in general, the game's victory condition is open. And if you take one out of the deck, you just announce that you've seen one. Okay. But you don't announce, and they have different card backs, so it's pretty obvious when one comes out of the deck. And then you can put it down secretly on your board, but you can't be you cannot be working on it until it's been revealed. So there will be a moment where you have to reveal it, and then people could try and you have to telegraph that you're going to win the game, or they can try and stop you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's Oath, man. 13,000 backers, Steve.
Yeah.
Sounds like y'all are pretty deep into this. 13,000, that's a lot. So sounds like y'all are pretty deep into it, and that's what you said. There's just like a general timeline when
yeah, I mean, we're still aiming for December, probably somewhere around January, February.
All right, chat crew, take a look at that. Oath out there, 13,000 backers, and maybe coming down the pipeline December, January, something like that. So
the spam we just got spammed in the chat.
We sure did. I am not going to show all that. I'm not even sure what that is. So, all right. I think we lost Berla. Did we lose Berla somewhere? Where's Berla?
No, she just posted the Kickstarter for Oath.
All right. Send her a message. Tell her it's time. We're going to get that.
And you can still. I should say, if you are interested in the game, you can check out the mod on TTS that we support. The mod's really cool because it has a button you can push to get the kind of the DNA of your deck, and then you can publish that for other people to play with your set, and they can bring that set. Yeah. Hey,
by the way, chat crew, the TTS mods that they put together are really well done. That fort one is smooth.
Yeah,
super smooth, super easy to use. All right, Patrick Berla.
Hey, Patrick.
This is a board game show, Patrick, and you know what we have to do on a board game show.
I know what we have to do on a board game show.
We got to play a game. All right, Steve, tell us about the game.
All right, we're going to go do the Envy game. Envy game with Patrick. Patrick's going to have a game in his head. Only in his. He's not sharing it with us. You got one?
Okay. Yep.
He's got one ready to go. He's already promised he's going to skunk us. What we're going to do
how well does Gates Dowd know Patrick Leader? That's what I want.
Well, I mean, Gates can participate. You should be able to get it.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, he's going to have a game in mind, and we're going to play kind of like 20 question style, where Verla, BJ, and I will ask questions. We'll pay attention to the chat crew if they're asking questions too. And as we start to narrow down what he's been thinking of, somebody will get it of us, somebody from the crew, or Patrick will just, say, "Do you give up yet?" And we will. So, Are you set with one in mind, Patrick?
I am all set.
Do you want to ask your traditional first question, BJ?
Yeah, that's right. Envy, a good Cajun word for something, a game you really want to play. What's the word that you use up there in Minnesota? Jonesing, hankering.
Let's go with hankering.
Hankering. Okay, good. See, finally, I've got somebody that says hankering because they don't say that in New York City. Good. All right. Yes, that's right, Gates. We got the pressure. The pressure is on. All right. First question I always like to ask people is it a competitive or a cooperative game? And I'm going to guess it's competitive.
It is cooperative.
Oh, dang it. Wow. I figured all about the tactical battles and so it's a cooperative. Now, Berla, that narrows it down a little bit there. All right, Steve, what you got? What's your question?
Did it come out in the last, say, 5 or so years? Or is it older?
Let me check.
Borderline call.
What was you said 5?
5 years?
Did not come out in the last 5 years.
Not in the last 5.
Oh, so we can't guess root then. Okay. No.
Okay.
I do like root a lot. I mean, I'll just play it casually.
I hear good things.
Thomas says, is it Pandemic Season 1?
No.
I
admitted I didn't finish Pandemic
Season 1.
You never finished this broadcast.
I think that's why Thomas guessed, because he was like, he wants to finish it. All right, Berla, what you got? What's your question?
Is it pretty thematic?
I would say so.
Oh, thematic. All right. Does it have an actual cardboard board? Do you play it on a board?
No.
No board.
Okay.
All right, Jack. Just recap. It's a cooperative game, not within the last 5 years. It's thematic, and it does not have a board. Steve?
So card based?
Yes, it is card based.
Okay.
Card based.
Card based cooperative game. Berla, what you got? You got anything?
Does it play more than 5 people?
No, it does not play more than 5 people.
All right, Jack. We got some good clues here. It's a 4 or less game, cooperative.
Thematic.
Does it have a theme about islands?
No.
Oh, dang it. Yeah. was thinking Robinson Crusoe there, Steve.
Dean's thrown out Hanabi.
Ooh.
Oh, it's not Hanabi.
Okay.
Hanabi. What you got, Steve?
Was it an award winner?
Oh, I like it. I like it.
Let's see.
That'll narrow down. We're not going to use Google to check. We have to use our
Right.
memories.
It does not look like it won any awards.
Okay.
Oh.
So cooperative, older than 5 years, card-based, not board-based.
Mm-hmm.
5 or less.
5 or less.
That's what's throwing me off. It's not board-based. I mean, how many cooperative card games are there out there? All right,
It's not
Jack.
The Crew.
It's not The Crew. Exactly. That would have been a good choice. Have you played The Crew?
I bought it in my blitz to buy a bunch of games before during the lockdown. I have not gotten to the table yet.
Love The Crew. Love The Crew. Really good. And I've had success with it playing it with gamers and also just family members that have never played games before. You know, he wants to know if it's an LCG. Ooh, Lord of the Rings.
That's
Thematic.
a great question. I do like that game. It is not that one.
Marshall wants to know: are there components besides cards? Oh, you know what?
Good question.
A good question. Doesn't have to be a board.
There are components besides cards. Yes, they're not a big part of the game, though.
That's a nice hint. Is it an LCG?
No.
I was gonna go Arkham Horror there. Not Arkham Horror. Steve, what you got? Oh, I've got one. If you don't have one.
Are you laying cards kind of in a tableau, or are you playing them more traditionally like cards from your hand?
You are laying them in a tableau. The tableau does not develop any abilities.
Okay.
So there's no engine building to it.
Okay.
But you do
No
lay
engine
in
building.
tableau.
You got something, Verla?
Does it have a space theme?
Does not have a space theme.
Question. Usually theme or designer helps us narrow things.
Yeah, this is a tough one though. Trying to think of a designer of that. Does it have expansions?
It has expansions.
Marshall wants to know if Fantasy Flight published it.
I did not publish it.
No.
Was it on Kickstarter?
Not on Kickstarter. Too early.
Not-
Maybe too early. No, it was around when Kickstarter was around, but not super popular.
Older than 5 years, cooperative card game, no board. It
Not
has
Tiny Epic.
Not Tiny Epic, right? It has not Tiny Epic Galaxies. It
Not a space theme.
Not a space.
Is it a fantasy theme?
Yes.
Okay.
Card-based fantasy theme. Oh man.
You said co-op. Pure co-op, or is there a trader mechanism? Is there any tension, or is it pure co-op?
Pure co-op.
Pure co-op.
So not Shadows over Camelot, the card game.
I was thinking also like
Pure
Cutthroat
co-op
Caverns or
plays
something.
very well
Yeah.
solo.
And you could play it solo. Not an island based, because I was thinking Robinson Crusoe or Friday, one of those two, but both of those are island themes.
I do like both those games.
Yeah.
I like co-op a lot more than my studio would suggest.
Oh, really?
Also a different skill set.
I
So
finally
I
won Friday the other day. Oh man,
There you go.
It frustrated me. I didn't realize, Steve, that you really have to thin thin that deck and get rid of all those bad cards.
In Friday?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's yep.
Managing the cards.
I was always trying to, take out the low ones, and then I'm leaving the big ones, and I'm leaving all this bad stuff on my deck. Man, you gotta thin that deck out, man. All right, come on, Jack. What we got here? You have really stumped them because they are strangely quiet tonight. They got no guesses here. So, Steve, recap what our clues are.
We
That
have
always
a
helps.
co-op
Job.
game, 5 years or older. Back.
Not an award winner.
Not an award winner. We have not isolated where it was, whether it was American or European designer. Aeon's End, coming up from Dean.
No, not Aeon's.
Card-based. Well, there are some other components. You're laying the cards in a tableau, but it's not an engine builder where you're gaining powers. Does not seem to be board-based. Does it play in less than an hour?
I can definitely get through a game in less than an hour.
It's not Mage
Okay.
Night, then.
No, it's not definitely not Mage Night.
Definitely not Mage Night.
I cannot get through a game of Mage Night in an hour.
Nick is acknowledging his disadvantage because Starla does not do co-op. We know that.
I
They're a
can
nice
I'm
show.
with you,
get
Nick.
set up in an hour.
Is it an American publishing company?
It is an American publisher.
Okay. American designer?
It is not an American designer.
Not an American designer.
Is it higher than a 3 on BGG's weight scale?
Oh, is it heavy?
Interesting question.
Ooh, I don't think it is, but let me check. Because the weight is always a complete shock to me. Weight and downtime are two such subjective things. I don't even know why people talk about them.
That's so subjective.
While I'm looking that up, you can hit me.
Oh, I've got a question for you. Is it IP based?
It is not IP based.
Wow.
The weight is below 3.
Below 3.
And we have a fantasy theme, we said.
Medium weight, not a fantasy with no IP. So those games from Cosmo. No, that's a German publisher, so it wouldn't have been that. I was thinking, but they all have boards on them. American publisher.
Gates is stumped too. Oh,
Really? Wow.
Gates, come on.
Oh, Gates is
Have you
stumped.
played it with Gates?
I have not played with Gates. I've played it with my wife quite a bit.
Okay. So it can play 2?
Can play 2.
And you said it can go down to solo even?
Yep.
Okay.
Is the
there
box
roll-
bigger? Oh, sorry, go Steve.
I'm sorry, Verla. Go right ahead.
I was going to say, is the box bigger or smaller than a Ticket to Ride size box?
It is smaller than a Ticket to Ride box.
Wow, I am tapped out. I'm just drawing a blank here. Steve, you got anything? I mean, I'm cooperative game.
Is
How
the
about
designer a name we'd recognize?
Thomas gets it.
Oh, good
Oh,
job,
Nyram.
Thomas.
Oh, Nyram. Oh, wow, that is a good one. You're right. The
Now that
components.
threw me. With the
components aren't a big
fantasy, I
deal.
was thinking more like high fantasy.
Yeah,
I was
and
thinking,
that's
you know,
fantastic.
orcs and kobold.
It's a fantasy theme, though. It is. It's that. Oh, that's
It
good.
is.
You know, I've never actually played it in person. I've played the app probably
Sure.
100 times,
Yeah.
but never actually played it in person. Does it
I
play as
actually
well in person?
refuse to play the app because I like the
You like the shuffling?
I like the shuffling. I like the playing out of the cards. I find the game very meditative to play alone. So that's-
Nicely
I don't know
done.
that
I
one.
would have never thought of a Nyram in a million years. And I love that game. It's such a good game too, man. Patrick, well done, man. Well
Thank you,
done.
thank you.
I'm gonna send Steve and Berla back to the green room so we can close it out. But hey, that
Hey,
was a
guys.
pretty
Good
good,
talking with you,
that was
Patrick.
pretty good on V, huh?
Well
You did a
done.
good job.
Yeah.
All right.
You did a good job. And that was the Envy game. It's presented by our friends at Game Toppers LLC. Make your game nights, Patrick, a showstopper when you play. When you play on a Game Topper, they do. Berkey does a good job of helping us out with our Southern Board Game Fest and our awesome charity, the New Hope Foundation. So I love to just mention.
I think he lives in the area, right?
Yeah, he's actually from up there. He's from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Good enough. That's the Envy game. So thank you for playing the Envy game with us.
No
Let me get
problem.
back here. All right, board gamers, that is it for another episode of Gumbo Live. Patrick, how can people reach you if they have any questions about any of the games that we talked about tonight?
Sure, yeah. We use Twitter pretty heavily. So at Leader Games on Twitter, at Patrick Leader if you want to talk to me about design. I'm trying to step back from answering questions for the company though, and I appreciate people respecting my time on there. Facebook Leader Games would be great. Otherwise, use the support on our email. I just want to plug that you can still order Fort. You can still order Oath right now, and then Route 4 in the fall, and then possibly Void Lich next year.
Yeah, we didn't get to talk about Void Lich. So
yeah,
you know what?
that's all right.
We're going to have you on whenever you're ready to talk about Void Lich because I am interested. Check out Patrick Leader's Twitter page for some interesting pictures and an actual Twitter play-by-play of a little session.
And I do AMAs frequently on that account also, so it's good. It's good to follow.
Make sure to like our Facebook page, facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo, and our YouTube channel. It helps us to get the word out about all of our upcoming shows, including next week. We've got Sean and the crew from Flat Out Games. That's the Calico people and Cascadia people. They'll be coming by to talk about it. Hey, listen, chat crew, I endorse Fort. Fort is a fantastic game. You already know about Root. You already know about Oath. But Fort is a game that more people need to love. So get out there. It's a perfect game for 2, 3, or 4 players. I'm BJ from Board Game Gumbo, and Patrick. Until next time, les allez bon temps roulé.
Some French.